So Max Holloway is now out of his fight against Yair Rodriguez in the main event of a fight night on July the 17th, and now we need to figure out a situation where we can fix everything at once and make everyone happy, because I'm extremely sad by this news. I was really looking forward to Holloway versus Rodriguez in July. There were so many great events in July, and this one was one of them. A great fight, two guys in the top 5 of the featherweight division, a perfect title elimination bout as well, both of them coming off wins. The winner of that one would take on the winner of Volkanovski versus Ortega. Oh well, it's over. There's been some discussion about them postponing the fight. There's also been some discussion about finding a replacement for Yair Rodriguez. It seems like they're leaning in the direction of postponing this fight, which tells me that maybe the injury of Holloway is not that bad. It's just something that he needs to quickly recover from, and then he can head back into training camp. Maybe it's a cut, something like that. We know TJ Dillashaw was recently suspended with a cut, had to postpone his fight with Corey Sandhagen. The one reason I trust it's not a terrible injury, other than the fact that they want to postpone it to a later date, which kind of tells me that it isn't a bad injury, is the fact that Max Holloway doesn't spar. So I'm going to go out and guess that it's probably not that he's been KO'd in any situation whatsoever. He probably doesn't have a broken rib or something like that, or a fractured orbital. It's probably him tearing a muscle, harming himself in like a swelling based way, and not a broken bone situation where he has to take 6 months off. The fact that they're looking to reschedule this tells me it's a bit of a minor injury, but Holloway wants to be 100% for his fight with Yair Rodriguez, because why wouldn't he? If he wins that one, he's definitely going to get a title shot against the winner of Volkanovski versus Ortega. However, one thing I need to mention, on SB Nation, it says, no word yet on how the promotion plans to handle the new main event for July 17th, but the bantamweight showdown between former champion Miesha Tate and veteran bruiser Marion Renault is the likely frontrunner. Miesha Tate versus Marion Renault is not a headliner of a fight night. It's not. It's not even a co-main event. I'm sick of this shit. That is not going to be the main event of July 17th. It is International Fight Month. We are competing with Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. That is not the main event of a fight night. We need to fix this situation immediately, and I'm going to go through all the ways that I would do about it. If this fight is postponed, fair enough. I'm okay with that. It's the perfect fight in the featherweight division. If I had to pick a date to postpone it to, I would add it to UFC 265 in August. That's a card that has not yet been completed, and it seems like Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena is going to be the main event. So it's not going to sell any pay-per-views whatsoever, and it's going to hurt the company to put that card on. So maybe if it had a Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez co-main event, it would be an okay card, and it would actually be amazing. Other than the UFC 265 card, there's another card with actually Ortega versus Volkanovski on there on September. There's a card UFC 266, Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. I'm sure we could add Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez as like a 5-round feature fight. In that way as well, you've got a replacement if anything happens to Volkanovski or Ortega. You can say, hey Holloway, we're putting you on this card. It's the same card as the fight that's going on, the championship fight in your division. If anything happens to any of the contenders, you can slide in and take that spot, and we'll find a replacement for Yair Rodriguez. Other than that, I don't see where else they would reschedule this fight, unless they were trying to bulk up the card of UFC 265 or add some kind of replacement and relevancy onto the UFC 266 card as well. I don't see why else they would reschedule it to anywhere else. I don't see them just putting this as the main event of another fight night down the line. That doesn't really make too much sense. I feel like it could be used on a pay-per-view, because honestly, Holloway is a pay-per-view star. He will bring in a lot of buys that way. So I think they're going to add it to another pay-per-view coming up soon after July, of course. But if they are going to try and find a replacement for Yair Rodriguez, there are many opponents. There actually aren't many opponents, in all honesty. The only opponents I can think of that would make sense as a replacement for Yair Rodriguez would be Edson Barboza and maybe Giga Chikadze as well. Who knows? I'm not really too sure if they would do that, because I feel like this is the perfect fight. Holloway, Yair Rodriguez. Now that Zabit has gone in the division, obviously the perfect fight would have been Holloway versus Zabit, but Holloway likes going 5 rounds and Zabit can't go 5 rounds, and also he's injured at the moment as well, which is a big deal, which I should actually mention as well. Either way, Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, great scrap. They might want to keep it together. If they don't want to keep it together, then maybe we could find a replacement of Barboza, Giga Chikadze. Right now, you've got Arnold Allen, who broke his hand in his fight against Sadiq Yusuff in the second round, and then has to recover from that one. He's only really just got back into hard sparring with both hands. You've got Josh Emmett, who's recovering from his ACL injury against Shane Burgos. He's only really just got back into hard sparring and getting in there again and really training hard. So I doubt it's going to be Josh Emmett or Arnold Allen. I actually think they're going to be matched up together at the end of the year once both of them are back to full 100% level of durability, if you will. Other than that, I don't really see any other replacements other than maybe the winner of the Korean Zombie versus Dan Ige. That could be a replacement for Yair Rodriguez if they don't take too much damage and have a really good win. Of course, Yair Rodriguez initially stepped in on short notice to fight the Korean Zombie. If the Korean Zombie beat Dan Ige in the first round and then wanted to step in against Yair on short notice, I'm sure they would entertain that idea and just put the winner against Holloway later down the year anyway. Even still, there aren't many names you can put in there at featherweight right now, because a lot of them are booked up, and Calvin Kattar's coming off a loss, and there aren't many other guys that are healthy and ready to go right now in the featherweight division. So in my opinion, they should try and find a replacement main event for the card, because they do have Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises. However, that's not really a main event of a fight night, and neither is Miesha Tate versus Mariam Renault. That's just no way a main event of a fight night. That's a shit fight that no one gives a fuck about. Let's be real, man! What the fuck is this dumb world? Let's be real, no one gives a fuck about that shit fight, man. Just me? I don't give a fuck. Why are they even considering having that as a main event in International Fight Month? That's not allowed. I'll take Makhachev Moises as a main event over that any day, but let's try and find a replacement main event. One thing I would suggest doing is shuffling cards down. That's what I always like to do in these situations. If I was in charge of the UFC, I would make a fight from a later date, come a little bit sooner, and main event of fight night on July 17th, and then find a replacement for the fight at the later date that I've now taken the main event from, because it's easier. You can give a guy a full camp that way. It's hard to just sign a fight out of nowhere onto the July 17th card, so I feel like what we're going to have to do is maybe put Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland as the main event of that card. I know Strickland just got his elbow ripped in a weird fashion by his training partner. I guess I'll be discussing that on the live stream later, but even still, Uriah Hall, Sean Strickland, the new main event of July 17th, and we can find a replacement for the July 31st card, which would probably be something like Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa as the main event of a fight night, and then put Holloway versus Rodriguez on the 265 card. I'm trying to figure something out here, guys. I just feel as though we need a replacement. We really do. It's International Fight Month. Miesha Tate, Mariam Renault. It'll be a shocking display of shit martial arts, and we can't have it as a main event anyway, and no one really cares about that fight in any way whatsoever. So maybe they could do Aldo versus Munoz as the new main event of this card and bring that one a little bit sooner this year, but that's a fucking 5-rounder, and Aldo does not go 5 rounds and definitely would not want to go 5 rounds against a guy like Pedro Munoz. So I think Luque versus Chiesa is an option. I also think Strickland versus Uriah Hall is an option, and then maybe put Luque Chiesa in the position that you've just taken Strickland versus Hall away from. There's so many things you could do here. You could even just bring Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw a week earlier and then find a replacement for that card instead. There's a lot of routes you can go down. Listen to all of the options I've just given you. Listen to all of those options that you can do. And you can say, and if I was if I was Luque and Chiesa, I'd rather a main event of a fight night rather than the feature fight of a Nunes fucking card. Unless Ngannou versus Derek Lewis is getting added to 265, I'd rather be on the headliner of a prelims of a good fight night than be on the main card of a Nunes card. That's not going to get any views whatsoever. I think Nunes' last main event sold about 50k pay-per-views. And O'Malley was on the card, and Garbrandt was on the card, so it's not going to get any spotlight whatsoever, especially against Juliana Pena, because she's number fucking 6 in the division, and is coming off 1 win, and she lost to Jermaine Durandamy, a kickboxer, by submission, despite her being the jiu-jitsu phenom in the division. Even still, I feel like they should maybe shift some fights around, figure this one out. Other than that, though, if they want to just keep this fight together, I think that's what they're going to do. Put it on the September card, or put it on the August card, depending on what you take to put as the new main event of this one. And yeah, man, we need to figure this shit out. It's a great scrap, though, Holloway versus Yair. A really good scrap. I really feel bad for Yair Rodriguez because he hasn't been in the cage for a very long time, and now it's just another fight falling through, whether it was his fault last time with the USADA avoidance scheme that he was going on with, or the fact that he pulled out of a Zabit fight, or the fact that Zabit got injured and now they can't make that fight, or the fact that now Holloway is injured and out of Yair Rodriguez's fight. Feels bad for Yair Rodriguez. If I was Yair, I would want the Holloway fight. I wouldn't sit there and say, give me a replacement of someone else, because that way you're not going to jump above Holloway in the rankings, so you're probably going to end up fighting Holloway anyway. Why would you take 2 fights to get to a title shot when you could just take the one that has already been offered to you? Holloway Rodriguez, September card. And yeah, the featherweight division right now, man. If I had to matchmake the featherweight division, I'd say they should do straight away rebook Holloway Rodriguez for a title shot. The winner of Dan Ige versus the Korean Zombie can maybe take on... I'm not even too sure. Maybe Edson Barboza. The winner of the Korean Zombie Dan Ige versus Edson Barboza. Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. Josh Emmett versus Arnold Allen. Sadiq Youssef versus Shane Burgos. Bryce Mitchell versus Movsar. Alex Caceres is ranked. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? I keep forgetting that. I saw that last week and I keep forgetting that shit. Alex Caceres. Above who? Alex Caceres is ranked at featherweight. Number 15. I don't know. If I was a fucking featherweight, I'd be screaming for Caceres' name. I would be on the fucking my rooftop right now, screaming Alex Caceres' name, trying to get that fight as much as I put. He beat Kevin Kroom. He beat Kevin Kroom and Austin Springer, and he's ranked. All right then. Jesus, what a shit show today. But one thing that needs to be mentioned though. Miesha Tate, Marion Renault is not a fucking main event. In fact, I'd rather it be a 2-round fight. I honestly, just make it an exhibition and give us less time to have to watch that shit. Because it's going to be terrible. I'm sorry I'm angry about it, but the fact that that's even being offered as the first option, as option number 1, when I've listed all of these other things to you guys, the fact that that has been offered as option number 1 is a disgrace, man. It's like they actually go... it's just box ticking. It's like they're actually going against being a successful company and harming themselves just for an image. It's so sad, man. When Dana White is gone and someone like DC takes over, this whole sport's fucked. I swear to God. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.